Insane in the membrane.
Hello and welcome to another edition of your favourite podcast, Insane in the Membrane, with me, Rich Wilson. And today I'm joined by the wonderful Tania Lacy. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you? Where do we find you in the world?
I am currently in Australia, in far north Queensland, the tropics, where it's
Lovely.
the middle of winter and a lovely balmy 26 degrees.
See, that's how winter should be.
Yeah, I know.
So is that where you're from?
No, not at all.
No.
Originally, yes, from Queensland, but down south of Queensland, but then lived in Singapore, then went to Melbourne, lived there. So 6 primary schools, 2 high schools, you know.
Oh, wow.
It was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you ever feel like you felt settled anywhere with a life like that?
Not really. I mean, you get itchy feet. You sort of get you get a calling to move on, if you know what I mean. And so, you know, I've just done 6 years in Berlin. I've come back to Australia when the world capsized. We came back here and we wanted to go somewhere warm because we wanted to be outdoors because we hadn't been for like a year and a half.
Yeah. I mean, and what a better place to be than where you are now. It's incredible.
I know.
I haven't been to Australia. I love it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing. But the problem is it's just too far away from everything.
Yeah, there is that.
You know, if we could just move it into the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah. It's one of them. It's like when I've been to New Zealand and then you're flying back and you're flying over Australia and you're like 8 hours on the plane and then you look at the map, you go, I'm still over Australia. How is this?
I know. It's huge. It's a huge place. You forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but do you think that's why? Because I was obviously I look at the guests to find out about them and, you know, do a bit of research and stuff. And what a life you've led. What an incredible life. And do you think that comes from having, like, from a very young age, moving around a lot, always on the move, always exploring, you just have this need to just do stuff. And you've done so much.
Yeah, I think so.
It's incredible.
And I think that a lot of it too is that, you know, by the time you've hit your 3rd different school, you're like, okay, let's forget about someone showing me where the toilets are. Who's going to be my friend? You know, like you just straight into the business. And I think it sort of prepared me for a life that, you know, like I wasn't so afraid of change and making change. So, you know, I just kind of do that. Yeah.
Just got stuck in to everything that came along, and you know, I was having a look. I'm like, you've done everything.
Well, there is a problem with that. There is a problem with that. Is that, you know, like I try and do all these things and I do them, and then you sort of don't become an expert in anything. Like, or people don't see you as an expert in anything. So, you know, like, because I've only really been doing stand-up for the last, you know, 6 years. But I've been in comedy for 30. So, you know, it's just a different form of comedy that I was in. You know, first of all, I was doing TV and I sort of was let loose. I was given so much creative freedom, basically because no one gave a shit what I was doing. It was just like I was just meant to be this girl filling airtime, you know. Well, we need someone to do 20 minutes a week, so we'll just get her. No one even watched my stuff before it went to air. And I got away with just doing so much stuff. And people say, how did you negotiate such, you know, creative freedom? And it's like, I didn't. They just didn't care. So, you know. But I think that I don't even know what I was talking about. But, yeah,
doing
being
lots
an
of
expert,
things, but not
you know,
really being an expert, yeah.
Well, not seen as an expert, even though I have so much experience and different life experience in different things, you know, and I'm a wealth of knowledge, basically.
Because you got in trouble as well, didn't you, when you were working with Mark Little?
Yes.
So
Well,
someone
you see,
noticed eventually.
yeah, well, they did. Well, they made me the host of this show because I became quite popular, and so they put me on as the host of this show. And then we put on a mock strike because they kept saying, because it was called Countdown Revolution, and they were like, we want anarchy. We just want anarchy, like just be anarchic. They kept throwing that at us. And when we did give them anarchy, they were kind of like, oh, not that kind of anarchy. Thank you. You're fired.
Oh, right, yeah. Controlled anarchy is what we want.
Yeah, we wanted to control your anarchy. We put on this mock strike, and there's a whole backstory to it that, we knew nothing about what was going on behind the scenes, and doing a mock strike was really hitting a very raw nerve that we didn't know about. And so, yeah, we were fired.
Right. The irony of that.
Yeah. And, I still feel like I'm trying to be forgiven for that. It's like, please, people, let it go, just let it go. But I think it's women when they make mistakes, we're not really forgiven,
It doesn't seem like that. It just seems like, it does seem like in all industries, men can kind of go away, dust themselves off, and come back with a new jacket on and go, oh yeah, sorry about that, I'm doing this now, and everyone goes, oh yeah, fair enough, he's obviously changed his tune. But women just get written off. That's it. I've
seen it in so many different ways on TV. Men who've done terrible things, who've been charged with assaults or whatever, and they'll be off air for maybe a couple of months, and then they'll be back on air. And we all just go, oh, okay, yeah, fine. Or people who've failed with a show and, they're not given a second chance, but a third chance and a fourth chance, and I just don't see that happening with women. And even, I experienced addiction in my life, and I even noticed that, even if you're a junkie, the sexism is strong.
Really?
It's like, when men rock and roll, they're taking drugs, the addiction, but they still turn up, they do a great show, but women, no, loser, get out, no, don't want to know. And it's not given the same kind of, and I hate even saying this, kind of kudos that men get when they use and then become clean and sober. I mean, standing ovation for that, please, people. But I don't think women are given that same kind of accolade when they get clean and sober. No,
it's always seen as what you were doing was a weakness, and you were weak, and
my addiction was, I was just going to say my addiction was very much tied into my mental illness, and as is most addiction. And so, it wasn't like I was just very sick, at that time.
Yeah. So when you say mental illness, what are we talking about?
It was probably one of the more colourful but horrible ones. It's called borderline personality disorder.
Right, okay,
and whilst I don't want to be the poster child for borderline personality disorder, I will be. It's something that's being diagnosed more frequently in the last maybe 10 years. And it's a difficult illness, and it's a difficult illness to treat. It's a difficult illness to recover from. And it's only in the last few years that people are being actually, psychiatrists have actually been saying, oh, yes, it is recoverable. You can recover.
Right, yeah.
But before that, not much was known, and not much was known how to treat people with BPD.
No, I've only really heard of it in the last few years, where I've had people that I've been around, and someone else has said that seems very much like BDP, and you're like, what is it? I don't know much about it. I mean, what for the benefit of the listeners, what is it? What are the symptoms?
Well, it's a comorbid kind of thing. So you'll suffer depression, you'll suffer often risky behaviors like drug addiction. There'll be, but the main part of this illness is the intensity with which you feel emotion, which causes, some fairly dramatic reactions, and it's all about trying to learn to control your reaction to things. And it can make life really, I have to work so hard to live a life that means that I can be socially acceptable. And I didn't for a long time. And I couldn't, because I didn't have the skills, and I've since learnt those skills. But I do have to work very hard, and it's hard to be the partner or friend of someone with BPD. It really is. So, I've lost a lot of friends, and it's been difficult. But at the
especially
same time,
when you don't. Yeah.
No, go on.
Go on. Sorry. No. Go on. You can.
No. I was just going to say, it's no, you first, really. We're both from polite countries.
Yes.
No, it is very difficult on the people around you, and I have lost a lot of people in my life because of this illness. And I think that's why I try to speak out about it, because it can be a very lonely existence.
And you don't even realise. That's the thing, when it's happening, until you get diagnosed, I suppose you don't know what it is. You just experience this thing, and you're not thinking, why am I like this? You just think, fuck, why is everyone around me? I don't know. Why, everyone around me seems to piss me off. Or
why are they all disappearing?
You don't know Yeah.
Why are my relationships so intense and then they're gone? And, there's so much stuff going on. And I was diagnosed with so many different things before someone finally went, you have borderline personality disorder. And, my poor suffering husband, he was just like, oh, thank God, because then we knew, and he could look it up and read about it. And, we did therapy together, and he was like, for so long he thought it was him, and he didn't have a clue what was going on half the time. But it was such a relief and so good for our marriage when I was diagnosed. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, having been around someone who shows all the symptoms, shows all the signs of having it, and in the end you have to go, I don't know what else to do. I'm going to have to just, and you go, I have to go. I don't know what to do. Because even when you say, look, I think it's this, and they go, what do you fucking know? You're not a doctor. And you're like, all right.
Yeah, it's that intensity of emotion that, because, you have this intensity of emotion, and then you have all these behaviours, these ridiculous behaviours that go with that. And before I was treated for BPD, those behaviours were there, and it can involve self-harming, it can involve addiction, doing ridiculous things like going and spending $10,000 that you don't have, just really extreme behaviours to try and cope with how you're feeling. And I guess what happens now is I've learned skills that enable me to not do the behaviours, but I'm still feeling very deeply. So I'm still feeling like a BPD. I'm just not going out and using drugs or drinking or spending money or whatever. So that's
it must
the
be
difference.
Exhausting. Yeah, must be exhausting.
It's so exhausting. And it's so, sometimes I just get so, because I misinterpret stuff so often, because my, one's self-image with BPD can be so fluctuating. Like one day you think you're so fantastic, and the next day you're just like, why would anyone want to be my friend? Why would anyone like me? And, that kind of roller coaster, it's just so much inconsistency in your life. Yeah, it becomes exhausting.
Yeah. And then you turn to drugs to cope with it. Drinking and
Yeah.
drugs. Was it drinking drugs? Yeah.
Well, it was drinking at first, and then I hit the hard stuff, and eventually I ended up. It was heroin that brought me to my knees.
Oh, wow. So we're not mucking around then.
No, but it was a fantastic painkiller. You know, it really was a painkiller, and yeah. So, but eventually I was one of the lucky ones that got clean and sober, and I've been clean and sober for over 22 years now. So.
Yeah. And are you all right talking about it still? Are you?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like some days, if it depends what kind of mood I'm in. Like, if you'd asked me this a couple of hours ago, I probably would have been in tears talking about it. But I'm okay right now. And, you know, that's why I do comedy.
Well, this is it. At least you found an outlet for all the, you know, all the things you've experienced, and you've turned it into comedy. That's quite something.
Well, the other thing is that comedy, doing stand-up comedy, is a fantastic mood stabilizer for me. It's a mood enhancer.
Right.
Like I love standing up on stage and, you know, experiencing that laughter and knowing that I'm bringing joy to people. It really helps me. So it's like a two-way relationship. You know, it's very symbiotic. And I feel that, you know, there is a little bit of an element of like, yeah, it's a little bit sad that I need to get up at least once a week and get a round of applause in my life to feel good. But, you know, kind of in the end, that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing. It's having the skills to make a room full of strangers laugh is it's a privilege to be able to do that. And a lot of people, they go, oh yeah, you're an attention seeker. You go, no, I get off on the fact that I'm stood in front of a room full of people, and for 20 minutes or an hour or however long I'm doing, they're forgetting about their problems and their shit, and or they'll go, oh yeah, I've experienced that. They go through so many thoughts and feelings in that short space of time that you're on. How can you not enjoy that?
Well, also, you know, I think I think people forget how important comedians are, and we've always had, you know, clowning or something in life that people have sought out to be entertained and feel better. And I think comedians are really important people because they do make people laugh and they do make people feel better. And in a sense, it's like we're sort of, you know, without sounding like a wanker, like a modern day shaman in some way. You know, there's a healing about that I think we forget how amazing it is to be able to make someone laugh.
Yeah. I think it's, and what I like about what we do is that we're able to sort of shine a light on the ridiculousness of our existence. The fact that when you really look at it, it's mad that we exist in the first place. And then the things we get up to and the things we convince ourselves are truth, and the things that we, you're like, we're insane. How do any of us get dressed in the morning, really?
I know, really, truly, like why? But yeah, I agree. I think, you know, so much stuff that we worry about and concern ourselves with, and particularly I'm finding at the moment, one thing that I'm finding really disturbing is how much people are controlled by their desire to have wealth and fame. And more than ever. And I just think, oh my God, like, you know, having been famous and not so much now, I can tell you it's really not worth the pursuit.
What does it feel like when you're in the middle of it, when you, like you say, when you become that person, when you're famous? What does it feel like? It must feel, because everybody wants to be well known for what they do. And when you get it, it must feel, you must have just not a single, every time you step out your house, everyone's looking at you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, at that time in my life, I probably needed that. because I was so empty as a person that I actually really needed that kind of accolades to keep going, which is really sad. But, you know, like ultimately when the fame went, and that's a really hard thing to lose fame, that's a really terrible journey. There's a reason why a lot of people don't survive that or become addicted to drugs in that time, because it is so painful.
Really?
To have been adored and then, you know, just slowly watch it dissipate and go away, and then life returns to like this normalcy, and it's like, well, what happened? What did I do wrong? You know, it's really painful, and I think that now I don't. I look back on that time and I go, you know, being famous at that time, at that age, with the illness that I had, probably saved my life. But now I don't live for it, you know.
No.
I mean, I actually wanted to be famous. Like, that's
really?
what I wanted. Yeah. Like, I remember in year 12 we had to write down, you know, what you wanted, and I said, I want to be rich and famous. And this priest was like, I hope that you're not.
Really?
What a dickhead.
Yeah, what do you know, mate?
Yeah, word of God, my ass. You know, like, it was just like, what? Why would you say that? And I understand what he means now, because it's not the answer to your problems. You know, it really isn't. They'll catch you eventually.
I remember watching years ago. I'm a big fan of In Excess, and I remember watching an interview with Andrew Farris, and he said that famous quote of like, "Be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it." And it never made sense to me until later on. I'm like, "Oh shit, yeah."
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, like I say, at that time in my life, I mean, I have to say, life as a famous person is so much better, though. So much better.
It must be nice being in demand. The phone's ringing, everyone wants to work with you.
Yeah. You know, you walk into a restaurant, oh, do you have any available? Yeah, just 1 second. You, that family there, get them the fuck out. We're going to give that table to Tania Lacy. It's really just, you know, people will do anything. Yeah, get out or I'll kill you and your children. Get out. Yeah, it's an unrealistic existence, but it's so fun. Like, it really is so fun.
Yeah. And do you feel it? Is there a moment where you suddenly go, oh, hang on a minute, things feel different now. I'm famous. Do you know what I mean? Is there a day when you wake up, or does it just sort of gradually happen? It
gradually sort of happens. Like, you know, a couple of people might recognize you, and then it's a couple more, and then suddenly you go to a nightclub and people go hysterical, and you know, it was gradual. But then once it you know was at its peak, it was you know, going out was kind of, I couldn't really go out actually.
Oh really? Got to that level? Wow. What did that feel like?
But it was only Australia, so.
I know that in this country we've got Ramesh Ranganathan, and I know that whenever he goes out, he's constant. People are always coming up to him, photos, autographs, whatever, and it's relentless. And he doesn't complain. He's really good about it. But it must get to a point. It's like, I just want to have my dinner.
Yeah,
just for a minute.
It didn't bother me as much as it bothered the people around me.
Right.
I was very patient because there was also a part of me that was very grateful that I was in this position. You know, like I was very grateful that this had happened. And it had happened in such a way, it was the kind of stuff you dream of. I was in a TV studio dancing, someone spots me, I get asked to audition for a new show, and I get that job. And, you know, like, it's a fantasy.
Yeah.
So I was very grateful, but, you know, it would often piss off the people that I was with. You know, they'd get really tired of it very quickly. My family would tire of it very quickly. So, yeah.
So it just got to a point you just couldn't go out. And
yeah, I just kind of didn't. It wasn't worth it, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, also I was a workaholic, so I was quite happy to be at home just writing for my next day shooting. I'm going to do this, you know. So it was fine.
Yeah, I guess when you're at that level, you've got, the work. You've still got to do the work, and you know, keep it at that level for as long as you can.
Yeah, more than ever. You know, like it was very intense, but I loved it. I love being that busy. I think that's something I probably should look at. I mean, at the moment, I'm doing this tour and I'm doing a law degree because, you know, I needed a hobby. So
you sound like a mate of mine. I got a friend of mine, and he just does PhD after PhD, and you're like, why? He goes, I like doing them.
Oh, he gets a better seat at a restaurant, Dr. Whatever. My manager used to always ring restaurants and book under like Dr. whatever his name was, because he said you get better service and a better table.
Wow. I might have to go. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. Yes, it's Dr. Lacy.
This is it, yeah. So the drink and the drugs issue, was that before you became famous, or was that
No. That was when it sort of all started tanking. And, you know, I didn't have the fame to lift me up anymore, to build up my confidence, to sort of help me exist in a world. And my money was running out, you know, it only lasts so long. And, I was drinking a terrible amount, and then it was the usual party drugs, and then I was very glad that I found heroin because it stopped me from drinking so much. So, you know.
Saved your liver.
Yeah. So it was through that period where I kind of lost the fame, but also, you know, my mental illness was catching up with me. So I was feeling more the depression that that had been able to be pushed away because I was so busy and, you know, enjoying my work so much that I didn't have time to feel that. And if I did, it didn't last for a long period of time because, you know, I had to perform. And so when all that went, it was just me. And I couldn't cope with that. And that's when I started to really seek out drugs that were going to kill my pain. And I didn't even realize that I had anything wrong with me until I ended up in a rehab and they started treating my mental illness.
Right.
So, yeah. But at that stage, they diagnosed me as major depressive disorder. So, it was a good many years after that before I was diagnosed with BPD.
Right. I think this is one of the things about our industry, entertainment industry, is that it is so brutal. Like when you're coming up and you feel like no one gives a shit, and then you do something and then everybody gives a shit, and you think, like you say, you've made it, you're there, you've been allowed into the big room, and then suddenly you go into the big room one day and you've been locked out, and it's you see it all the time with people, and even now they say that they've got measures in place and there's aftercare and there's this and there's that, but that's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's just once they don't make money from you anymore, they're done.
Yeah, you do feel like a little bit of waste tossed onto a pile. And I mean, there's so many people who experienced, you know, elements of fame in their life as younger people, and they end up dead. And you've got to ask yourself why. Yeah. It's not a coincidence.
No.
You know, it's a very painful process to go through.
Especially like you just said, if you're a child and you go through it, you see it all the time. Macaulay Culkin, famously, Corey Feldman, and all these people that were child stars.
Yep.
And they just lose their minds.
And talented child stars too, you know.
Yeah.
They were very talented, you know. And Corey Feldman's best mate, Corey, whatever his name was, I've forgotten.
Oh, Corey Haim.
Haim, yes. I mean, he's died.
Yeah.
And there's a lot. There's another, the people who were on different strokes, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, and I understand, like, all those people that respected me and spoke to me with such glowing, oh my God, rapture. None of that happened anymore. They didn't talk to me. No one called. Nothing. And like I said, it's very painful. And you do really feel disregarded.
Yeah. But you seem to have a resilience that not everybody has. And a lot of people do have it, but you were studying, you were a ballet dancer, and then you had a severe accident which meant you couldn't do that anymore. But then you became a choreographer. So you didn't even on that level when you were like, right, you were not going to ballet dance anymore, and you were like, and I imagine at the time it was horrible. You must have been, beside yourself at that point.
I mean, that was the first thing that happened in my life. I mean, a lot of people would never have something like that happen, and have to go through that ever in their life. But basically, my entire life, I just wanted to be a ballerina. That's all I wanted. And I got into the College of the Arts, which is a place you audition for, and they take 30 people or 20 people out of the whole of the country.
Wow.
And in my second year, a drunk teacher, he was drunk and he was always drunk, he dropped me and I snapped the bottom half of my leg from the top half. Oh. And it was devastating because that had been my dream, and I couldn't, there were so many existential questions that I had, like, why would God give me this talent, put me in, let me get into this college and then rip it away from me? Like, what am I supposed to learn out of this? I just didn't understand. And I think it's a kind of accident that you never really get over. Like, that's always there and people go, but you went on to be really famous and on TV. And I'm still like, yeah, but if I'd had my choice, I would have just been a dancer. I would have happily gone that route. And I say, before I'm anything in life, I'm a dancer. Like, seriously, like that's, that you put music on, that's still there in me. And that accident, it was very difficult. But yes, I went back to the college after, rehab on my leg and learning to use it again and everything. And I just couldn't keep up with the training. It was just impossible. And so I left the college and I went into commercial dance, which I could manage. And then I was dancing on this pop show called Countdown, which was like your Top of the Pops. And it was there that I was asked to choreograph a video clip for one of their newly signed clients, which was Kylie Minogue. And so I choreographed and was in Locomotion.
Which is amazing.
I know, right there at the beginning. Can you believe it?
I'm going to have to watch it again. I haven't seen it in years. I'm going to have to watch it again.
Oh, my God. I have been in London walking through a mall, and that has played on a huge video screen. And I'm just like, Kylie, if I'd known that this was going to be played 35 years later with me in a goddamn rah-rah skirt, Kylie, I don't know if I would have said yes, But, yeah. I mean, no, seriously, I loved it and I had so much fun. And then Kylie popped by one day and I was like, I'll just make a cup of tea. And I was in the kitchen like, what the fuck is Kylie Minogue doing in my lounge room? You know, just getting the tea. Jesus. It was so bizarre. But, yeah, she, of course, I think the only person who had any doubts that day when we shot that clip was Kylie. Like, everyone else was like, yeah, this is going to be a hit. She's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Keep going. Have some fun. Let's go.
It's incredible how massive she's become.
I know. And I think this resurgence at the moment is so fantastic. Because as a woman over 50, I understand how difficult it is to stay relevant and to be relevant to people. And, yeah, she's smashing it. It's fantastic.
Do you know, I had this conversation yesterday with someone. We were talking about ageism in our industry, and it is still rife. I don't care what people say. There's no one gives a shit. And I was talking about it from my perspective, and it was a woman I was talking to, and then they were going, "Yeah, well, you try being a woman." Like women can't even. You can't. When I've seen comedians, and they talk about the menopause, and you see the audience turn off, or you see promoters go, "Oh, I'm not going to book her again. All she does is talk about the menopause," and you're like, "Yeah, it's a big fucking deal."
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah, if only men had to go through it. Yeah, I do think that ageism is a huge problem, and like I also feel like, and you might feel like this too, being an older person, like you walk into the back room at a comedy gig and suddenly everyone's like, quick, put the joint away, Mrs. Lacy's here. You just don't feel like you're kind of part of the gang, like.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't demand respect from people. I really believe you have to earn it. But I just wish that you had to earn disrespect as well.
Yeah.
Because the way that I have been spoken to by people who are like 12, who've been, I sometimes just think, oh, my God. And I have to stand there and I have to go, yeah, okay, thanks for that. Yeah, thanks. No, I got it. Great. Because if I didn't, that would be a huge issue.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And it's what gives me, what I take solace from is, they're arrogant now because they're young, and we all were, and they're all like, what do you know? And I take great solace in thinking, you'll be where I am one day, and you'll get this. You're going to understand exactly why I'm being the way I'm being, why I'm so chilled about this, because I know I knew that you were going to be in my position one day. Yeah, you're like, oh shit, I'm not part of the club anymore. When you walk into a green room, you say hello to everybody, but everybody's normally hunkered down and they're all scribbling in their notebooks and they're all doing whatever they're doing and they're all focusing, or they've all been out paintballing together that day or whatever they've been doing. And you kind of go, and it used to bother me, but now I'm like, look, you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing. As long as this show works and we all have a good time, anything else is irrelevant. And I know that once the show starts, I'm going to smash this. So you need to keep up.
Yeah.
Not in an arrogant way, but you see what I mean?
Yeah. I sort of wish that I was judged more on my talent, not my age. I feel like that's the first judgment that comes at me as a woman. As an older person, when you walk into one of those back rooms, the first judgment, it's like, what's Dad doing here? What's Mum doing here? I don't want them here. So it's, oh God. Yeah. Cause I got asked the question recently, like what does being older mean, being at Edinburgh Fringe? And it's like, I'll tell you what it means. It means I won't get an agent. It means no one will want to tour my show. This is what it means, seriously. It's just like it immediately, because everyone wants the next big thing, but, that apparently you have to be young for that. And I don't know where that comes from. I mean,
it's absurd.
It's just weird to me. What, you know,
well,
my dad was...
there's a massive... Go on.
My dad was someone who was very successful later in life. You know, he got a law degree when he was 40. He became a judge later in life. And
oh, wow.
He's done some amazing things. He was administrator of Christmas Island, you know, like he's done some amazing things. And it was all later in life. And he's been allowed to have that success. And I just think maybe, I don't know, maybe there's something about the legal world that means that they can go, oh, it's older, that's a good thing. But I don't find it's in many areas.
No. And it's weird because, one, there's a massive audience for people of our age. Those people they still exist. They're still engaging on social media and things like that. They're still there. So why are you turning your back on them? You should be employing older people to tap into that market. They're the market. They're the people with money. They'll buy tickets.
They're the ones with the dollars.
They're the ones with the dollars. We've got the experience. So you know you're going to get a good show if you come and see us. It's not a waste of money. Not saying that young people are a waste of money, but you know what I mean. And
I seriously do.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And we are relevant when we're part of an aging population. You know, hello.
Yeah. Should be, and the fact that we've you know, we have the experience. We've lived a life. We've got stories to tell.
I know, that's the thing too. I want to share my knowledge. I want to help people. I want to give this away. Like so much stuff that I've learned along the way, and in the field of like working in television, you know, and then working as a writer in a writer's room, and you know, being in charge of my own career as a stand-up. There's a lot of experiences that I've had, and I want to share it. And I feel like I'm often, like I said, I wish you had to earn disrespect as well.
Yeah, I know, but especially as a woman. I remember this early on. I've only been doing comedy for 20 years, but I remember, and I said this quite a lot on here. I remember there was only ever one woman on a bill. She was on in the middle. It was known as the girl spot, and and that was only 2000, and that was early 2000s that was still happening. Well,
and you know, I managed to get myself cancelled over that very issue, because when I came to the place where I live, I turned up for an open mic night, and you know, I was like, you know, I'd come from Berlin, where they're very progressive about women there, and I was kind of like, where are all the women? And they're like, well, the 2 women's spots are taken. The 2 women's spots. Oh my God. Yeah. I was just like, oh, okay, got it. Yeah. And I made mention of this on my social media page, and I didn't get another gig.
Unbelievable. See, this is the thing. What annoys me is these talks about diversity and needing to make changes. Yet it's still, women still get a shit deal. I've booked gigs and I've put women on, and the guy I was booking it for, and he went, these are all women, and I went, no, that's not what I've booked them. They're good comics. And he's like, yeah. I don't know if the people in the town, they might not go for it. But I was like, but they will. I know they will. And they did. And it was a brilliant night. And you're going, I don't understand what the problem is. Why is there still this stigma when it comes to women comedians?
I don't know. And I completely get what you're saying, because I see it too. And frankly, at the moment, I don't know if it's like this in England, but in Australia, I think it's the women who are doing the more interesting work right now. A lot of men are relying on, you know, the old shtick, and I'm finding that women are really pushing the boundaries and making comment about stuff that men aren't going there. And I don't know if it's like that in the UK, but I really think that it's such a fertile time for female comedians and the work that they're producing. And yet you only have to flick through the Fringe, you know, what do you call it? The
brochure.
And just compare how many women are on for men. And it gives you the answer. Like, I totally understand why women also walk away from this.
Yeah.
I totally understand.
Yeah. But this is why someone like you should be given more of a voice, because you've come through so much. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I'm just saying you've been through so much and experienced so much. You've experienced every aspect of this industry. You should be one of the people that everyone should be listening to. Like you're the success story, and you're what happens after the success, and then you reinvent yourself, and then you do something else, and then you're part of this, and you're part of that, and you keep pushing, and you do these things. That's worth its weight in gold. That knowledge is, you can't buy that knowledge. That's something that, and so for people not to be listening to you, it's just, that's their loss. They're fucking idiots.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. My experience thus far has been that when I do speak up, all that it's meant is that I'm punished for it. Like, for example, I can't get a gig in this town to save my ass because I spoke up about the misogyny. And, you know, there was a comedy night, there was a competition. I was kind of new to the town, and I didn't enter because I had any hopes or dreams of winning, but because I wanted to get my name out there as being like present in this town. Now, this was a competition where there were 3 male judges and a male host, and all the prizes went to men. And I didn't really care about me, but what I did care about most of all was there was this woman. It was the second time she'd been on stage, and she was a natural. Like, she was so funny. You know, those people that come along and just go, oh, okay, so this is a gift from God that you have. Clearly you're way beyond what anyone else is ever going to achieve, and this is your second time on stage. But no mention was even made of her and that experience. And every time there was a lot of kind of like, oh, we got another woman for you. You know, and I was just kind of like, this is, you know, they're not saying we got another man for you. And, you know,
no,
when the guy walks off stage, you know, I did my bit. Well, we learned a lot there, didn't we? You know, like, why are you breaking down my act and doing this? Like, what the hell is that? You're not doing it to the guys, you know?
No.
And I just sort of, and I spoke out about it, and it just got me cancelled.
See, this is what's happening over here, is that there was a thing recently, the last couple of years, and a lot of women were saying if you're in, like, lads, if you're in a green room and you notice that there aren't any women on or whatever, speak up, say something. And I was like, yeah, that's not the place to say it, in a green room when you're being booked. The way I do it is people that all the time, promoters going, who's coming up, who's good, who's bad, we want to get more women in, and you go, right, here's a list of names, it's this, and you do it like that. But there is an element of, fuck, if I kick off in this green room, or not kick off, if I say something, I'm not going to get booked. So there's we need to do something about that fear of speaking up. Like you say, we should be able to say, mate, you need more women on this bill. You need to start booking these people, those people. You need to, in order to stay relevant. We're doing you a favour. Yeah. But there are brilliant people out there that you're not booking that would make your night incredible. But
yeah,
it's that
exactly.
Fear, it is that fear of, if I say something, I'm not going to get booked.
Yeah, and that's
terrible. Which is what
terrible.
we need to work on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just terrible. And like I said, I wish that I don't know how to find that power. And I was thinking about it today, and I was looking at my social media, and I thought, I really need to be more political and on my social media, because that's the only, sure, it's going to maybe garner some responses that I don't enjoy, but like I do with any response I don't enjoy, delete, block.
Yeah.
So I was looking at it today and I was literally thinking, I think this is going to be the only space that I can say things of a political nature about women's place in the comedy industry and women's place in any work environment, because I don't care where you work. It's meant to be a safe working space for everyone. And, my experience was that it wasn't. I just think that we're a little bit beyond, it's 2023, for God's sake. Why are we still having these discussions? God.
Because it's the system, isn't it? It's the system that's crooked and fucked, and that's that. And whenever if you'll just be seen as she's a pain in the arse, she's a troublemaker. Let's keep her out of the way, rather than addressing the fact that it's the system that needs changing. Well,
the system is working exactly as it is intended it would work, is all I can say. If you get what I mean.
Mate, I do. I know exactly what you mean.
It's working exactly as it's meant to work. And, my finding has been that when you push up against those structures that are thousands of years old, that have no real place in our society today, the reaction is often extreme. I'm still trying to work it out.
But that's the thing as well, and it's the fact that it's on you to figure it out. That's the thing, isn't it?
Well,
it's on
men
you.
like you will make a difference. Yeah, but men like you make a difference by saying this stuff on your podcast, and that's great. It's, clearly your attitude is progressive. And that helps, and I think it's important.
Yeah. Well, it comes from a place of not realising. For years, I didn't realise. Because I was just gleefully going along, doing my thing, whatever was happening, and it's not until you start to really look into it and you go, oh shit, because as far as I'm concerned, everything's fine. I'm getting gigs. Yeah. Everything's fine. I've been gigging with women. I don't know what the issue is. But it's not until you look into it and you go, oh no, hang on a minute. There was one woman on that bill, and there was 20 men, and it's not until you start, you go, because you're benefiting from it, you don't notice it. Do you know what I mean? You don't see what other people are going through.
Yeah, and I think that they need to, because my husband has said the same thing, and that I have opened his eyes, and he wasn't aware of his male privilege, which sort of has a bad connotation, but he's kind of get to seeing it now as like, it's not really that it's a criticism, it's just the way it is, and it's the way that we're raised, and we don't even see it. And I remember on International Women's Day here, they had we've got a show called Q&A, and it's a political show, and on International Women's Day, they did in the commercial, they were like, and coming up next on Q&A on International Women's Day, an all-female panel. And I was like, and the day that you don't have to say that, because it's unusual to have an all-female panel, is the day that we'll know that we've actually moved somewhere. Why should it be a shock that you turn on a TV show and it's an all-female panel?
I know.
Plenty of shows where there's all male panels. We don't get shocked.
Well, it's like the diversity conversation. Yeah. When I've got people, the older generation, and they're going, I'm just sick of it. It's everywhere now. And you're like, but the problem was that it wasn't. That's the issue. That's why you're noticing it now. Because you didn't notice it before, because you didn't notice it before. But now we're making changes, and we're going, actually, we need more people from this place and that place doing these things. Now you're noticing it. And now it's an issue.
And I find television so much more interesting, television and film so much more interesting when it's not so white. Like I've actually, and you're seeing Asians who are cast not because they're Asian, just because they're a person, existing in this world.
Yeah.
They don't have to put on an accent or whatever. They're just another person, and I'm just loving it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just thinking, how rich is this landscape now? Like, it's so much more interesting. Really enjoying it.
I am as well. This is why I love on a basic level doing this podcast, because I get to meet interesting people and learn a bit more. Every episode of this podcast is really about me learning about things, and I've learned so much from having you on today. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, Tania. I could talk to you all day. I think you're fascinating, brilliant,
thank you.
And I genuinely wish you all the best. And I'm not blowing smoke at your ass, but I think you're inspiring, and I think you should just carry on doing what you're doing, because it's fucking working. So
thank you.
Yeah, keep on.
And thanks for having me
shouting.
on, and hopefully we'll see each other in Edinburgh.
Yeah, I'm not going this year, but I might pop up. I know what'll happen. I'm going to have FOMO, and someone will say, Rich, we're driving up tomorrow for a couple of days. You jumping in? And I'll jump in the car, and I'll go, listen, babe, I've got to go. I'm going to go and...
Yeah, got my six-pack, I'm on my way.
I've got 2 pairs of pants, and I'll be off.
Nice one. I'll see you there then.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're going to be in Edinburgh. Whereabouts are you going to be?
I'm at Just the Tonic at the Caves, 7:30, 3rd to the 26th of August. Yeah.
Cool.
With my show, Everything's Coming Up Roses, which is
nice,
a highly sarcastic title.
And where can we find you on all the socials?
Tania Lacy, TaniaLacy on Facebook and Insta.
Excellent. Lovely. As I said, it's been an absolute joy to speak to you today. And on the Kylie Minogue thing alone, there's people are going to go mad for that.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Rich.
It's been my pleasure. Enjoy. I don't know what time it is over there. Is it morning or night? What are we talking?
It's nighttime. We're at 9 p.m. at night.
Okay. Well, go and enjoy the rest of your evening. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And I think producer Paul is there somewhere. He'll come in at some point. No, anyway. This has been Insane in the Membrane. I've been Rich Wilson. This has been Tania Lacy. We'll see you next time on the podcast.